Welcome back to the Village Verdict. Let's dive right in. I recently had my first baby. Not only was the pregnancy difficult, but postpartum has been trying as well. I've had issues healing from my C-section, in addition to mentally having a hard time. Family and friends are very sweet and have offered to come over and help, but I'm not the type of person who asks for help. I tend to self-isolate and get through it on my own, probably from childhood trauma forcing me to be independent at a very young age. I don't like to burden other people if I don't have to. My husband and I were at a point where we were ready to invite immediate family and grandparents over to host. When we called my husband's grandparents, they were very short with us about the invitation and declined to come over. We were very confused about their tone, but figured they had something else bugging them. After a couple of days, the conversation still felt weird, so we called them again to check in with them. My grandmother-in-law was again short with my husband, and he asked her if something was wrong, and she unleashed. She was hurt by not seeing us sooner, and she thinks that it's odd that we've been keeping her great-granddaughter from family, because back when she had kids, she was surrounded by family early postpartum. She said she doesn't even feel like a great-grandmother and doesn't even believe that her great-granddaughter exists. We were both shocked and in disbelief by her comments. Communication is a two-way street, and we hadn't heard from her at all since she had met the baby in the hospital. It feels hurtful that we have just been trying to stay afloat the first couple of weeks and are now being accused of keeping our daughter from her. I can understand her frustration if we had been blowing her off, but that is not the case. I thought people were supposed to give grace to new parents. Due to my isolating tendencies, I want to distance myself even more and not have to waste my energy on toxic family members. However, I know that life is short and it wouldn't be fair to my daughter or husband. Am I wrong for not reaching out to them sooner? Am I wrong for thinking her accusations are unfair? Ooh, this is a tough one, but this all boils down to, like you mentioned here, you have some childhood trauma that causes you to self-isolate. They have a family culture that clearly involves being surrounded by family. And so this is really just a case of having pretty significant differences in your family of origin that creep up in some of the most random of moments. And so I want to start with really just validating the fact that you are struggling through the C-section that you just had. That requires a level of care and self-care and self-focus that a lot of people don't realize. A C-section is a major abdominal surgery. This is no light thing. So this is almost like if you had a kidney removed and people were like, oh, you didn't invite me over for a tea like the next week. Like, it's a big deal. And you probably weren't even thinking anything along these lines that the great-grandmother has mentioned here. Secondly, you are still with a baby, a brand new baby. You just brought a brand new baby home. And so, yes, in some family dynamics, the family is there 24/7 care. They're helping out, they're cooking, they're very present in the home. In some other family cultures, no one is there. The new family is very isolated and alone. And then maybe in another family culture, maybe it's hired help. Maybe you have doulas, a postpartum doula, or your birth doula might be carrying over care with you as a postpartum doula as well. There's so many different ways and contexts in which this could play out. Maybe there is some drama and some toxicity, and so maybe it's only particular family members that are welcome in the home in the first few weeks. And so without understanding and having had those conversations ahead of time, it really is kind of tough to navigate that, especially if someone isn't sharing that ahead of time and planning. So this is one of the areas, this is where postpartum planning becomes absolutely clutch, because you will now be able to communicate with your loved ones what your expectations are, what your perceived or anticipated needs are going to be, and you can allow people to be involved at the rate and within the boundaries that you feel comfortable. And so what might that look like? A part of your postpartum plan could have been maybe having a meal train where you have certain people, they could buy you DoorDash gift cards. I think that's one of the things you can do on mealtrain.com. But having people be able to drop off certain things and giving it a time limit. And so if someone's bringing you a dish, you could say, hey, if you sign up for Wednesday at 6 p.m. to drop off dinner, we'll have 30, 45 minutes for you to visit and then, exit, or whatever your time frames are. That way people feel like they're helping you, they feel involved, they get a little peek here and there at the baby, especially if that's something that you're comfortable with, and it allows people to feel like they are a part of the process. Again, this involves conversation, not assuming the worst of people, and still honoring the experiences that you're having. So the other piece too is, I love that you have the level of self-awareness to say that you have isolating tendencies. I will say that during postpartum, that is probably not going to be the most mentally healthy thing. I'm not here to say that you absolutely need to have a ton of people around you, or even in this case, this particular great grandmother. But if you have some trusted folks that you can talk to, FaceTime if they don't live close, maybe someone that is a little bit more objective and not as sensitive as particular family members, especially if they're a part of your husband's family and not yours. But it is important to have community and have people laying eyes on you as you're healing. Yes, you have a tendency to not want to burden people, but in this season, it really is about healing well and making sure that you have your needs met. And while it may not be your first instinct to ask for help, there's nothing wrong with asking for help, and it can actually benefit you, benefit the baby and the family, to have people in place supporting you and just being present for whatever it is that you need. So in terms of, are you wrong for not reaching out sooner? You're not a mind reader. Who could have known that? And in terms of thinking that her accusations are unfair, they are a bit unfair. And I also understand that, her perspective, the family culture of showing up and being surrounded by folks. But again, it was an uncommunicated expectation and a miscommunicated expression, meaning, having an attitude instead of sending a text message or giving a call and kind of sharing, and maybe even ahead of time saying, hey, even at the hospital, back in my day, we, did this. Do you want me to stop by? So this miscommunication could have been avoided with a little bit more clear communication and expectations, and then, just creating those boundaries and planning. So what do you think? Are you somebody that has had a situation like this where you had some uncommunicated expectations from family members, or you were just so swamped with your actual day-to-day reality that you didn't really have a chance to address it until it got bigger than it should have been? Let me hear about it in the comments, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.